All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started so we can get out of here at 8. Thanks for coming out. My name is Justin. I am pushing the Charter City thing along and gathering steering committee members. So we are going to just start with introductions. That's what we do at meetings like this. So if we just want to go around quick, say your name and what organization you're with. Yeah. Let's start with Mohammed.
Okay. I'm Molly Campbell. I work for Justin at Real Change Wilmington.
My name is John Wormel. I am the lead pastor at Wilmington Assembly of God.
Travis Hughes. No organization, just a local resident. Well, I guess I came with my wife. She's the organization.
I'm Stephanie
She's the organization.
Yeah.
She is the organization.
Nobody. I'm just here because I think it's a good idea.
Jason Scapes, local business owner, running for council this year. Yes.
City name is John.
Joe Denon, City Washington Courthouse.
Michael Albright, former second ward rep and at-large rep for city council and previous Wilmington College employee, current Red State employee, doctors from the Ohio State University. And I've been fan of some difference in our community. So glad to hear what you have to say, sir.
Very cool. And we have Jim Rankin and his wife that just walked in. So, very cool. I'm going to introduce our guest, Dave Kennedy. He is the city manager for the city of Loveland. So, you want to give us a quick background on who you are, real quick?
Yeah, I'm Dave Kennedy. I've actually been in local government for 40 years. I've been with the city of Loveland for 10 years. I was in a community down on the Ohio River, New Richmond, Ohio, for 25 years, and worked for a township all through graduate school. I have a degree from Oxford, off Miami University up in Oxford, and a master's degree in city planning from University of Cincinnati. And actually in New Richmond, I was trying to push a charter that failed. Quite frankly, it's a deep town that really could have used one. And then in the city of Loveland, we've actually had a charter since 1961. So I operate under a charter, but I had the privilege of being a part of a charter amendment, which is sort of neat how that entire process works. But 2 kids, they're both grown, and one's in public service. He's a police officer for the city of Lexington, and one is a teacher in northern Kentucky. So I've basically dedicated my whole entire life to public service. So, you couldn't probably have 2 more diverse communities between the one where I spent 25 years of my life through floods, through all of that stuff, to the community I'm in now. And I think they both have wonderful attributes, and you should be awful proud of what your downtown district looks like. And this is really something. We've been working hard. We just did historic preservation regulations to be able to have what you have. This is really a special place, and on a cold day, so it's really something.
So I'm going to just set up questions. This meeting is just for you guys to get information. So I'm going to set the question up. We'll hear from Dave, and then if you have follow-up questions from that, feel free to ask. Maybe we'll limit it to 1 or 2 though for each piece so we can go on. So before we started, you mentioned that you were part of a city that tried to pass a charter and failed. And the reason was because there were some misconceptions about what the charter was. And it was kind of funny because one of the misconceptions was something that a charter would have done if it would have passed.
Yeah, so that's a smaller community, and because one of the big things about a charter is that it allows you to establish your form of government, obviously. That was a village that really needed a village manager. As the village administrator, while most people thought I ran the entire village, I wasn't over police and I wasn't over fire. But there's also a community that had their own water system, their own sewer system, and that would have benefited from a village manager. At that point in time, no one saw that charter as Dave trying to become a village manager. But it just, in a smaller community, it could be torpedoed by a small crowd, and that's basically what happened. I sort of regret that I didn't push it out harder because I had to implement income tax in that community and spend an entire year meeting with people, and that income tax, which largely is keeping that town afloat now because the power plant in that community shut down. I wish I would have maybe spent more time, but even having a conversation with one of the people that was the strongest against it, she's talking to her when it's a very diverse community. Highway splits it up. It's a high rental population between the river and the highway. And I remember sitting with her one day and we're saying, we need to have a rule that says there's always one council member from this part of the village. We called it the core. And I'm like, well, with all due respect, that could have been in the charter. I wish it made me only mad at myself because I probably could have educated it better. Where in Loveland, they've had the charter since '61. It is their Bible. It is truly, if you're going to adopt a charter and that charter is simply going to be the standard form and you're never going to tweak it to what Wilmington needs, then you probably shouldn't adopt one. But if you're going to actually cater it, tailor it, because that's what it is. The High Revised Code, you have to follow the High Revised Code, right? This allows you can never be less stringent, but you can be more stringent. And that's the key to creating it. Ours is very unique. It's been tailored to the goals, how council's elected, how the mayor is appointed, when they meet in December to pick who's going to be the mayor. But even like little things, if you think about during COVID, chartered communities, because everyone wanted to have meetings via Zoom and all of that stuff, charter committees could do it. Non-chartered committees had to wait for rules and directions from that. So there's a lot of benefits only if you make it so it is tailored to Wilmington, because if you think about it is the most power of the people document there is, because not only how it's written and how a charter commission is put together, but even how it's amended. We did that amendment. We brought in electorate. We sat in a room and wrote and rewrote and went through every section and had some older people to say, hey, why did they have this rule about the finance director, that he's hired by council, but he has to work with the city? Oh, well, they didn't want the city manager to have too much control if he's doing something silly with the money. Well, so we amended it, but we found a nice medium. City manager hires the finance director, but he can't fire him without concurrence of council. So that was completely tweaked and set to how the city does, how they work. And it is truly a document of the city, because you can't even change it without shipping it and mailing it to every resident with a current and after thing. So ours is pretty unique, I think.
So we're going to dive into charter stuff in a bit, but I want to touch on a few things about Loveland that I think are important to Wilmington as well, like recreation, the downtown and businesses, our schools, and housing and homelessness. So can you touch on the history and future plans for Loveland's downtown, like the bike trails and the business?
So we, over the course of 2 years, the city of Loveland did 4 master plans. And we did a master plan, a comprehensive master plan for the entire community, but in master plans, some things are often not get enough attention. So we did a separate master plan just for our downtown district. Well, we have a signature downtown park called Nisbet Park, and it's right on the Little Miami Bike Trail. It is the key. It is why people come. We did another master plan just for how Nisbet Park is to be revitalized. And if you would have that plan, and I walked you around that park, you would say, almost to a T. Designs or colors are a little different. This seating area might be over there, but we are following it. And then we did another plan just for how we want our sidewalks to look, what kind of street lights we want, with basically a downtown streetscape plan. We're trying to implement every part of that. We used to get a bad rep for only caring about downtown, and it's really not true. We have revitalized the low-income part of the city by selling off property and putting every penny of it into a grant program to help residents redo windows and gutters and shingles, and we have a corridor, a business corridor that's just your standard sort of shops and so on and so forth. We did a full plan for how it would be redone, center medians, and we've actually funded 2 of the 3 phases, We've already received $10 million. But the cities then actually went and bought some of the key properties along that route to help revitalize and control what goes onto those properties. So we're getting grants and working. We owned an 8-acre piece of property since the 60s that was an environmental nightmare. We were able to get a $3 million brownfield grant to clean up that property, and actually bought a piece of property in front of it, which is a dilapidated old building, so this property would have access to Loveland Madeira Road. So we're trying to work on every facet of the downtown. It is so diverse because we have the $1 million homes up in White Pillars, but we have the homes in the Loveland Heights. And I think the goal is that you could come in, and no matter how your life goes, there's always something housing-wise that will allow you to stay in the city because they want to stay in our school district. And we don't want to lose them to the townships and so on and so forth. So I really feel like we've tried to act on every aspect of it, from housing, from taking our parks that we largely neglected and just saying, okay, every year we're going to redo one of the restrooms in one of the parks. Every year we're going to redo the tennis, we're going to fix the tennis court. And we just have these set plans because we can't afford to do them all in 1 year. And we just do it. We just do it. And then now we've reached this point where all of our neighborhoods say we want sidewalks that connect into the downtown district. We have a plan. And every year we've been making other connections, bringing the subdivisions because it ties into this sidewalk. And along the way, we're making it so you can walk to all the different schools. So it's that whole community aspect that makes you feel like, okay, you created this downtown district, now everybody wants to get there. Well, let's start building sidewalks so they get there. We're not going to do it all in 1 year. So we are very successful with grants, and that is a big part of what we're doing. We use the fact that the Loveland Heights is considered an LMI community. That means we can get CDBG funding. The CDBG funding can be used for low moderate income communities. So we'll tap into that and we'll tap into this. But by having our own water system, we had water mains that were just falling apart. We never had the money, and we just constantly took loans to do new water mains. So we set up a $7.50 surcharge that goes into a fund that you can't use for anything but water mains. That is, as of right now, has $1 million in it. And then we were able to get money. So it's just sort of trying to look at all aspects of the city and not neglect like different parts of it. And I love, because I spent 25 years of my life in a very lower income community that got flooded, and I had the misfortune of having to use FEMA money and buy all those homes. I have a real soft spot in my heart for all aspects of social economics, I guess, and think that if I left tomorrow, I would rather than say he did a heck of a job on revitalizing the Loveland Heights than he did making the downtown cool. But I don't know what they'll say. It's always gone. But I'm just saying that I think it's pretty cool what we've done up there. And you see the home values. We see less property maintenance issues. And actually the property that the city sold to use for the Heights, because we had some vacant property, is now getting ready to be put in. Affordable housing is being built on that property that we sold. That's sort of like, it has gone full circle now. They've got a zoning hearing coming up. But that's a big part of my world. And I love the fact that cities have their own utilities, but we needed to take care of them. We just couldn't keep taking all of this debt because it's so much of our money was going into that. So you can't put $7.50 on every bill without explaining it. By having a good marketing communications department and having a lady that could sit and really write well and through public things and put me in a position where I can talk to people, we adopted it. No one said it. It's done. And it's key to that city.
Yeah. Any thoughts or questions? I'm sure many of you have been to Loveland and seen their downtown. So we kind of covered recreation and business. Any comments so far?
Yes, sir. I may ask you, thanks for coming to Wilmington, by the way, appreciate you being here. Who steers your grant funding? Is that your job?
Yeah.
City manager?
I've because of I've spent 25 years in a community that we didn't do anything, we had a grant because we had no money. We had a $3 million budget in that community. The power plant shut down. That was $785,000 of it. We had to do everything from the boat ramps to the water system to we had to build a whole new sewer plant. Everything we had to do. So I'm not an expert in anything, but we all get emails about grants that are available. We just choose to open them and really look at, do we have a project that matches them? And with ODNR, and that they see Nisbet Park as an amenity to their bike trail, and they have grant programs, we're not afraid to ask them and clearly say, if you help us get this money, we're making your bike trail better. And we go after federal grants, we go after state grants, we go after county grants. We just built a parking lot in the downtown district. It was $1.3 million. We got 1.15 of it in grant money. That new parking lot that has transformed how people come and go out of this downtown district was largely funded all through grants, both through a state capital budget and through ODNR. We are not shy to ask our state legislators for every year to have projects put into the capital budget, and we're not afraid to ask. And it's basically, you're taking your residents' tax money and bringing it back in the city. How can anyone have an issue with that? Now, with that comes process, detail. It's got a massive sidewalk grant through ODOT that thing's going to be built in 2028, but it's funded. So we are not afraid to ask. So that's a big part of what we do. And my assistant city manager, who will replace me, is good at it. And if I can help teach him, go for it. But I'm no expert. I'm just not afraid to ask. So, and the key is to always have projects teed up. And what we're also finding is having those master plans and citing those in those grant applications, the people that are funding you love that. Oh, okay. So you wrote a master plan and you brought in the people to help public input to write that master plan, and now you want to fund it. It just sells. It makes it look like you're not just, we want to do this, now we want to do this. No, see, we have a plan. So that's sort of our motive, I guess.
The city manager would be very important for them to have the gift or the knack of navigating grants. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I mean, it is in Loveland. It is for us. Maybe, I don't know if that's why they hired me, or maybe nobody else wanted it. But I mean, I think that they knew they were getting someone who knew a little bit about grant funding.
Sure.
I mean,
it's not easy to navigate grant funding.
Yeah, I don't think that there's been a year that I haven't brought in more grant money than my salary. We just got $750,000 from Congressman Greg Landsman through a federal grant. I mean, but we have, everybody does it. Our fire department chases every penny that there is. Our police chief's really good at getting money for the COPS program, for the DOJ, body cameras, for anything that he can tap into. Our clerk of council just recently got some money for some EV chargers, and heck, everybody chases them. So
it's kind of good to know, because I feel like Loveland's medium income is a lot higher than Wilmington's. So it's not just the taxpayers paying for these things, it's you getting grants for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of grant money out there. So
Can you talk a little bit about your schools? I think you have a lot of private schools.
we have one private school.
Okay. But your school is ranked pretty high.
Yeah.
And what's your relationship with the schools like?
Well, I'm sort of buddies with the school superintendent, but that's just because he's a really nice man. Well, our involvement with them is they're our leading taxpayer. So, and we were very aware that they had one campus that is tired and it needs to be replaced, and it's actually right in the middle of our Loveland Madeira Road corridor. So, if they would have picked up that school campus and moved it out to the township because we had no other land available, that would have been the loss of, I don't know what employer I would symbolize to that, because we have 4 school campuses. All of their campuses are all in the city. But if we would have lost them, that would have been a big hit to that city. So we were able to work with them through an annexation of some parkland. A 200-acre parcel got annexed into the city. We do a lot of annexations because you can't use, you're going to use our water system, you have to annex in. And through that, we were able to work with the people that were doing it, and they carved out 18 acres of the 200 acres right on the main road, and the school came in and bought it. So while they're not getting ready to build that school right now, we can honestly say through that work, the school district's staying in the city limits. And you can just say, well, you just did that because you didn't want to lose your tax money. Yeah, but not only that, they're our identity. And just the thought of the Loveland City School District having even one campus out in the township, we really like that. So we work with them on that. We're currently working on with them to potentially purchase some land that the city owns next to high school to give them some more comfort. And when we started doing the school resource officer, we have an SRO in all but one school, one of the of the public schools, and we actually have an SRO in the one Catholic school that we have in the city. We have St. Columban School. They actually got a grant to help pay for their half of the school resource officer. So we're big with school resource officers. But when we went to the school, we're like, hey, it's more than just a salary. So every year we'll go through Jesse Moore, he's the SRO at the high school. Well, here's Jesse's salary this year. This is his health insurance contribution. Here's really everything it costs for Jesse to be an officer. 50%. And then we bill them every quarter. And it's just more fair. Because, to be honest with you, when they're not in the schools is typically when they take their vacation time. So, which is fine.
What's the school resource officer do?
He is in the schools. He is there with the students. He is more than a cop in the school, but he is there to protect the kids, but he's much more involved. I've heard numerous stories about what they've done and these guys helping out with individual issues with the kids, but they are there for all aspects of what goes on in the school. Yeah, they're walking around and they're in a uniform, but they're also there. There's a comfort there, but they get intimately involved with the administration on fire drills and security and all of those aspects of it. So we've got 4 total police officers. Of our 24 police officers, 4 of them are stationed in a school every day. And then they're off when they're off. The contract says if all heck breaks loose and they need to leave, they leave. But they have the oldest cruisers parked up there too. So that's sort of how it works. But I like it. I think it's cool, and I think it's needed. And we're actually, the one school that we have left, we're actually looking to add one there. So and we find that the police officers are good for about 2 years, and then they want out. So then we cycle them through. 2 years is about the most that you want to be in there.
It's good to know you guys have relationships with the schools and helping them with their goals of staying in the city and stuff.
Right now we're doing big Safe Routes to School grant. So, hey, school superintendent, a letter from you really would be nice saying how important it is for these sidewalks to help you connect your school. Get it in the letter, so because that whole community and that whole walking to school thing will be completed long after I'm gone, but it's certainly in the works. And included in that is from the Loveland Heights down to the schools. We just got a grant to make a connection on a road called Osage, which is going to allow the students that are walking to the high school to not walk down the middle of the street. The sidewalks are being. So we sold that through the CDBG program as connection to the school and revitalization.
And then the last thing about Loveland is what's the state of housing and housing development? And then also maybe touch on strategic plans for dealing with homelessness, addiction, and crime. There's some messy issues in our community.
So we're in an infill stage. We don't have any more land. Those 200 acres that became the park will never be homes. So what we're doing now is we're in an infill. People are buying lots that you would sort of go, where'd that come from? And building homes. So we're addressing that. We're looking at, okay, this is a good thing, but shouldn't it look somewhat like the neighboring homes? So we're looking at infill regulations. That's sort of our future, is people are buying lots, especially lots that will allow them to walk into downtown and building these homes that are right now pretty high priced. I think that revitalizing the Heights fills that other need. But as far as a new subdivision, I can't imagine there will be one in the next decade unless there's an expansion of our utility lines. As far as the homelessness, the first time I've ever even dealt with that was last summer. And that was I'd be stretching it because it's not really been an issue. I think the bike trail is a whole nother mode of transportation, and we will have people that maybe sort of come into town for the trail, may have hung out in a park. We sort of work with them with the resources, but the resources would have been mostly out of, the difference is that we're so close to Cincinnati, and I think that sort of taps into that. So, hey Dave, there seems to be a guy camping in one of our very remote parks. The police went in and met with them, sort of worked with them on some resources that were available. And then I believe we didn't like, hey, get out of town type of thing. So I believe that particular person just ended up either moving on or utilized some of the resources the city of Cincinnati has.
Any questions about schools, housing, or homelessness before we go on to charter-specific stuff?
Yes, sir. If I may. Mr. Kennedy, if somebody asked you about the success of the Loveland schools, probably a long list, but what's the top of the list that, just off the cuff, what would you attribute to their high standard for success?
I don't know if it's just the focus. It's probably more so on their focus, the diversity of the programs. I deal with the kids a lot they have a program called Tigers Inc. And I think that's so they have this program in the high school where the kids take on a project. So they'll come down and they'll work with the city. So when we were doing the Nisbet Park Master Plan, it was during COVID. So the kids came down and they said, hi, we're part of Tigers Inc. And can we do something to help with the city? It'll be our project. We'll go back and we'll report to school. We're actually working on it in this particular class. And they ended up designing a QR code that they posted all around Nisbet Park. So you could go up with your phone and take a survey. And we used that whole story there and all of the photos of what they did in grants, because even through COVID, we were able to get the public input. And I kept thinking to myself, my kids went through parochial schools. My mom was actually my principal, which is fun, in grade school. She was my Catholic school principal. And I kept thinking to myself, the different opportunities that they clearly get these kids from, and the ability to be in the freedom, because I actually went and sat in a classroom with them. I thought to myself, that is obviously quite the amenity of the school district. And I think that's part of their success. They struggle with levies. They certainly struggle. That's probably why it'll be a while before you'll see that school built, because they're going to have to pass a bond. They have to deal with a lot of angst from the people. I would say right now, and I'd say if he was standing here, I would say the current school superintendent has probably been the biggest change in that area. He is an extremely personable guy, and he is you got a complaint, can I meet you at a coffee shop type of person. And I think he's broken down a lot of barriers, my personal opinion. And I've had 3 in my 10 years, nothing against the other 2. But Mike has sort of he is so approachable that if I was that angry parent or I didn't like this particular levy, he's going to call you and ask you to go have coffee with him. And that's probably the biggest thing. He wouldn't admit it, but Mike is probably the biggest thing that's made that school district what it is. I don't think they even get enough recognition for the 5 stars that they got. We have a big program called the Loveland Valentine's Lady. Every year they pick a lady, because we do Valentine's like no one else. So every year they pick somebody who is Miss Valentine. And she's Miss Valentine for a whole year. We have a whole monument about him along the bike trail. And it's been going on since the 70s. And these women are enshrined in this Hall of Fame. And we just had the Valentine's breakfast, and they're all in their red sweaters. Some of them have oxygen tanks. There are some of them are, and there's Mike doing a poetry program where all the students submitted programs about Valentine's and love and all of these things. And he's up there with these kids, and I'm like, okay, he's not doing that because he has to. He eats this shit up. And I'm sorry, this stuff up. So but that to me, just watching him do that, I'm thinking, all right, he's a crack up. But he's entrenched in the community. I'm like, you don't need to be up there, kissing up to the old women with the Valentine's, the red sweaters. But seeing the second grade award winner in the third grade, and he's posing for pictures with them. But I think it's Mike, but that's me. So
Very important.
Any more questions before we get into charter specific stuff? Okay. So backgrounds on Loveland City Charter. Dave, can you briefly describe the key differences between a statutory city and a charter city, and why you favor the charter city form of government?
That's why I like what I said. I'm sorry I jumped off the topic in the beginning, but I just think, again, everyone's dictated by the Ohio Revised Code. You can't be less stringent, you can be more stringent. If the Ohio Revised Code is silent on a topic, then your charter can kick in. That's the most basic way the charter works. I feel like our charter, because we follow it so closely, has really been a godsend for us. But again, if nothing's worse than no charter than having one that's just, here's the format. The city we did historic preservation regulations. We got the format, and then you have constantly tweak it. For us, how council is elected, how they meet, how they can be removed, how the city manager, everything that the city manager's powers are, how they're dictated in the charter, that sets the foundation. I read the charter when I was going through the interview process for the city. A, so I wouldn't look like an idiot, but B, so I knew what I was getting myself into. I think how it dictates what they do, and it gives them a very unique identity. And you can see the little tweaks in there that are customized to the city. Just every little thing, even like this little funny thing, because you can, if I look at the history, they sold their sewer plant in the 80s. And they did an amendment to the charter and then said, we'll never sell our utilities again without a vote of the government, because they still rue the day they sold that sewer plant. The city, Loveland, would probably be 4 times the size, because they would have just said you can't have our sewage. And with that, they hang on, now that we're dealing with PFAS, like you guys have your own water system. So we're dealing with PFAS, and PFAS having to be removed from your water system. And part of the process in going through PFAS remediation, which is getting PFAS out of your water system, is that you have to show that you asked the neighboring water systems what it would cost for them to take over your water system. So as you're meeting with Cincinnati Waterworks and you're meeting with the Claremont County Waterworks to say, hey, how much would it cost if we just shut down our water system and let you fund it? They both, you're talking to them and you're like, look, this is just required. We're not giving up our water system. We're not going to do it. We're going to spend the money to remediate our water, the PFAS. We're not going to give up our system again. It's our identity. It is the service that we give our residents. You would not believe how many emails I've gotten from a resident. Hey, Mr. Kennedy, Ricky Gregory was in my yard at 2 in the morning last night, helping me with a water leak. Hey, Mr. Greg Kennedy, Rob was in my house, found out that posture I'm having is my soft water softener. I mean, the ability that we are when there's a water leak or any water issue and someone's at your door, that would be gone. So that is a unique thing that you can clearly see. You say, hey, why does the Planning Commission have to meet every month? Oh, back in 1990, Dave, there was a big zoning thing and they wouldn't meet to hear it. So there was a provision in there that said they had to meet every month. And you once you learn the history of why the little things were tweaked, some be sort of quirky, but some that just help define this is when you're going to elect it, and it's a nonpartisan, must be nonpartisan. The vote must say, cannot say Republican or Democrat. And then once elected, then they all sit in a room, and then they do a separate vote on who's going to be mayor, and here's if the mayor ever resigns, here's how the mayor will be replaced if the vice mayor doesn't want it, and all of those things. I was the city manager when the mayor was recalled, so I got to see it all in action. I thought I was going to get fired, but you know, you got to see how it all worked, and they're sitting there with the charter, and that's what they're following. The Ohio Revised Code is still the mother, but this allows you to take everything to a different level.
What's the responsibility of a mayor in your city?
So the mayor has a vote on council. She has no veto power. She is she will set the agenda. They have one employee, that's me, and the city solicitor. He's by contract. She is there. She handles all the ceremonial duties. She runs the council meeting, but ultimately she votes. She cannot veto anything. Largely, the powers of the operations of the city are on the city manager. We have a wonderful relationship. She's an attorney, so she drives to work every day at 7 o'clock. My phone rings. You can hear her garage door going down, and I can hear some gate where she works, and we talk the entire way over anything, what things that are going to be on the agenda, and what I've got planned for the day, what my son's up to, how the wedding going. You know, we deviate all over the place, but we talk all the time. But ultimately, our charter sees that as I hire the police chief, I hire the public works director. They're not responsible for hiring or firing anyone, just me. And then I have a separate contract that they must review annually. But she runs the meeting. She is a vote. She has no veto power. She is there for every ceremonial item. She is absolutely the nicest lady I've ever met. I don't think I would still be working for the city of Loveland if she wasn't the mayor, because I'm long past the time, pension-wise, that I should still be working. But I do it because of her, and because we get along so well. She knew some items when she became mayor that were hot topics for me. I was a very strong proponent that I needed an assistant city manager, not because I couldn't, but because I just think we weren't doing things that we could have done, that we were putting things aside because I simply couldn't get to them, and that I was a strong proponent of historic preservation regulations where the former government didn't want it. She opened that door, and I see the benefits of that every time somebody does something in the downtown district. She's absolutely, for someone who doesn't need to be doing this, she is just amazing. The amount of, they don't make any money, you know, she does it because she's so passionate about it. And she marries a lot of people in our council chambers, because everyone wants to get married in Loveland. But she's stupendous. I was talking to her all the way up here. She rattles my cage a lot. So,
do you guys have a president of council, or is that her role? That's her.
She runs the meeting. She keeps people in order. She gavels them when they need to be gavelled. But the way we do our thing is, this is a packet week right now. We have a software, and we write memos, and we send the legislation. And then on Friday, the packet has to go out on Friday for a council meeting next Tuesday. We sit and we sit her and the vice mayor via a conference call, and we go through the entire agenda, everything that's on it. Okay, Mayor, this item is regarding a contract to put new sidewalks on. Okay, Dave, you got that one? No, Chris has got that one. And then we go all the way through it, and then we say goodbye, and then on Friday we post the agenda to council and on the internet, and that's our week. Then we're done. And then Tuesday we have a council meeting, and then we do it all over again the following week. So we meet the second and fourth Tuesday of every month, and special meetings as needed, but we don't have it. And we'll discuss, at that meeting, we'll discuss whether or not there's a particular topic that we would like to go to executive session. Say, Kathy, I think maybe we should go to executive session on insert name and topic. Okay, you think so? And the city attorney's on it. Yeah, okay, Dave, cite G2, blah, blah, blah. And then we put it all together. And that's sort of what we do all week, me and the mayor constantly. And I won't hear from her on a weekend unless hell though, because she's very protective of Sia. So if I get a text from the mayor during the week, it'll say, do not call me. This is just because I'm thinking of it. but she's a great lady. So yeah, but she's considered president of council.
So as far as how the charter is set up, any questions on that, how that works? Okay. So you were part of a charter revision.
Mhm.
What were some of the topics that you guys revised and why did you do that?
That point in time, the charter still said that the city manager had to be a resident of the city, but they weren't practicing on it, so we wanted to remove that. That wasn't very good. They didn't feel like it was, that it limited their pool a little bit. If the majority changes, they typically fired the city manager, and they didn't really feel like it made a lot of sense to have somebody pack up and move to town. I think at that point in time, I had proven that for somebody that didn't live in the community, I was all in, was there on the weekends, was there for all events, was there. And I think they decided to go ahead and make it formal, even though the Ohio Revised Code stated you couldn't make someone move in. They wanted to clean up some language regarding some meetings. They wanted to clean up some language regarding the finance director. They wanted to clean up some language that we just wrote a comprehensive plan, and it had been 25 years, I think, since the last time they wrote one. They wanted to make that a charter requirement that the comprehensive plan must be reviewed every 10 years. They wanted to make it a charter requirement that they would at least review the charter every 10 years, whether it resulted in items that they needed to take to the electors. So it was largely that, and it passed widely, but it was very clear how we needed to send it, how it went out to the residents. But we sat for 13 months. We met twice a month. We had a big computer screen, and we changed it. We had our goals for that evening. We never wanted to meet more than an hour. Every member of the charter committee was told what items we were going to talk about at the next one. We had multiple samples that they could look at. They could go, and then when we came back and we said, okay, today we're going to review powers of the city manager. We went sentence by sentence. One guy was doing all the typing, redlining everything, and they'd say, well, Montgomery is doing this, and they're doing this, and then we would agree on something, and then we would move to the next section. And that's how we rewrote it. There was no council member. There was one council member in there. Nobody was pushing us to do anything. When for a while they were showing up, there were some people showing up saying, put term limitations in. They didn't want to do it, so we didn't put term limitations. And then they quit coming to the charter meetings.
Terms on whose position? Yours?
The elected officials.
Elected officials.
Yeah, there's no term limitations. I'm appointed by them, but I'm also fired by them.
Can you talk a little bit about your guys' law director, how that position works?
So Joe is he is with a firm called Strauss & Troy. He represents about 4 communities, one large township, very large township. So he is on a contract. I budget $70,000 a year for him. He may or may not use that. One of our advantages with Joe is that he comes from a large firm. So if I call Joe because selling some property, and he's on the phone with us. If we have a hot personnel issue, he'll call Stuart. So that's why we sort of like Joe. He comes to all of our council meetings. He's a member of our CIC, our Community Improvement Corporation, and he comes to our law and ordinance meetings. Those are the committees that we have 18 committees. I'm an ad hoc member on every one of them. And so we were just discussing, we're doing a first and last right of refusal on some property that the city wants to buy, but we have to get a grant to buy it. So we're working with that property owner to just get a first and last, which just means that we have a right to step in if he sells it. So we were just sitting in the CVS parking lot. We were going over some language on that. He's accessible pretty much all the time. He attends all of our council meetings. He will point out, hey, Joe, do we need to amend the agenda because we just had an executive session? No, that's a motion. You can just do that anytime. Those are a big part of what he does. Every time I write an ordinance, our software that does our agenda, I hit a button and he reviews it. He'll do it. It's called a proof of form. Whenever I'm doing a contract, Hey, Joe, you look at the contract, and that's kind of he's really smart. He's really smart. He knows all about charters. He gave me this word we use. So when I was walking in, but he does townships and a small village, just Springdale, Miami Township, City of Loveland, and Georgetown, way out in Brown County. He's a good guy. He's really cares about the city. I can tell. So
I'm going to rapid fire the next question, so just short answers.
okay, yeah.
So some common concerns I've heard about becoming a charter city is that we're too small for the city.
No, Richmond was 3,000 people, and I still think they needed a charter.
And your city is 13,000.
13,000.
And then another concern is that a charter city is too expensive.
I'm going to play dumb here. I don't know how it would add expenses. There's probably an argument if somebody was smarter than me on how we can save you money in terms of contracts and the ability to put a level on contracts and the ability. It could actually argument, we don't touch on it, but changing your bidding thresholds. You could change your bidding thresholds, which may allow a city to get better and more competitive bids. So I'm going to default on that because I could Google it, but I believe that it could potentially be the contrary, that it could actually save you money.
And there's some grumbling that other cities' charters are not very good.
It's not good if you don't tweak it to the individual needs of Wilmington, then it's not any good. Because you guys, I don't know your uniqueness. I just know Loveland's uniqueness, and I knew New Richmond's uniqueness. Yes, I think that it's no good if you don't change it, but it's written by the people of the town. That's the key, and it's changed by the people of the town. It's the true constitution of the community.
The next concern is that it decreases democracy, and I'm assuming it's because the people don't elect the city administrator or the mayor, they elect the city council who then appoints the city manager.
Yeah.
So there's a concern that it decreases democracy.
Oh, yeah, I mean, to have the city manager elected would change the whole long-term operation. That if I had to run for re-election every 4 years, first of all, I'd have to live in the community. I don't know. I mean, you elect your mayor and council, you then are leaving it up to them to find the right person to run the city. But my contract's pretty clear. They can get rid of me like this, like nothing. If I don't perform, our city council every 2 years, we go away, we do a goal session setting. They set their goals and they're the city manager's goals. And every quarter, I'm supposed to come to a council meeting and say, in regard to this goal, we've done this. In regard to this goal, we've done this. And that's how I'm judged, and that's how I'm evaluated every year, and that's how my contract is based. They would, if I wasn't performing, I would have been gone long before. I wouldn't have made the 10 years. Yes, I'm selected by council, but I certainly can be given the boot pretty quickly. My contract says it pretty clearly. I can be fired for malfeasance, but I can also just be fired. If I'm fired, I have a small severance. So if I'm fired for just because they want to change, I have a small severance.
One concern that I've heard around the bar is that the charter would be created by a good old boys club.
No.
So
I don't. It's 15 people? I forget the number.
Mm-hmm.
We'd have to get 15 good old boys, I guess. But the whole creation of the charter commission should be business owners, it should be residents from all aspects of the community. I don't know how that would be formulated. I don't know how you could create it to be so centralized on just a particular group of people. I don't know how your government works. In Richmond, it was going to be a pretty diverse group of people, but we never even got past the election of a charter committee. It went to the ballot and it got failed just to get the committee. It never even got to presenting the charter.
And then last question I have, and then we can open up to other people's questions, is a concern is that Wilmington doesn't want to be another city, so we don't want to be a Lebanon, we don't want to be a Loveland. I guess we don't want to lose our identity as a city. It's a concern of having a charter.
Yeah, I don't. I think that it's the only format you're ever going to have to cater it to what you do need. If you had a specific area where you wanted a ward and you wanted council members to come from that, if you wanted to have very unique parameters that state that we're going to create, because our charter even dictates all the different committees that we have as charter committees. It dictates how we have our civil service program, because we hire people, police officers, through a civil service process. I don't know how it would, yes, I would think maybe it would help your identity, but I don't have a good answer for that question.
I do have one more question, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So there's a concern that, I guess a confusion that this is somehow a sanctuary city concept. Are you familiar with that concept at all? But it's not a sanctuary city.
No.
Yeah, different thing completely.
No.
Okay, so you guys have questions?
Yes, Kennedy. Just how would you recommend going about the 15 committee selection? What is the protocol to do that?
We submitted, it's been many, many years. We had residents go through, gosh, oh my gosh, it seems like
Put it in the paper?
yeah, well, we were so small that we put out a newsletter asking people who were interested in being in the charter committee, and we ended up with those 15 people. For that community, they were pretty diverse, and then we had a pretty well-known artist who restored an old church. We had a couple of business owners on Front Street, which is the river. Literally, here's Front Street, here's the river. And then we were able to get a couple residents. So we ended up with a very diverse group, and I think they would have done a good job. Are you guys at that point yet of doing the charter committee?
We are still building it.
Okay. Yeah.
Not to interject, but my recollection is, if you look at the revised code, you have to put the question of forming
Yeah.
a charter commission on the ballot, and then you'll vote for 15 people.
Yeah, so it's,
So
if yes, then yes. Yeah, you're right. And then there was more, it can be more than 15 people. Yeah, so question one is, should there be a charter committee put on, like you said? If you say yes, then you're supposed to select these names. And I think there's a minimum of 15 people. If no, you don't answer the second part of the question. We didn't get to that point. It got torpedoed. So,
And then the charter commission.
and they have so many months to write a charter, and then that charter must be mailed to every voting resident. Physical paper, just like we did when we did the amendment. You need to mail it to every resident, every voter. You get the list from the Board of Elections. And for us, of course, we get 3 Board of Elections because we have 3 counties. And then we, with that, sat there and stuffed and mailed the amendment to every single person. And it was very clear: left column current, right column change.
Yeah, I see a charter as a no-brainer. So I think what we're trying to do is build a diverse charter group of people, key stakeholders in the community, to really educate everyone else on why it's a no-brainer for the secondary question.
Yeah, I just wondered how, like, if the charter committee, like if council decides they want to change the charter, is it the same 15 people?
No.
That changes.
Yeah.
For every revision?
Yeah. So what we do with the charter amendment, it could be done by our charter amendment. I wrote this note because we don't do it very much, to say the least. So our charter amendment can be done by 5 votes at council. So our charter states that they can submit to the voters via simply 5 votes of council, and they can put something on to be voted upon. Let's just say the council decides that they want to have an amendment removing the residency requirement from the charter for the city manager. Here's the wording. If 5 members of council vote on that amendment, then it goes out to the election.
Okay.
We choose to create a committee to review it first. But you could say that there was one, or 10% of the electors. So if 10% of the community, they can formally petition that a charter amendment get put on the on the ballot. No matter what, it has to be on the ballot. What we did with our amendment was we didn't have a set item we wanted amendment. We simply wanted a committee to be formed to review the charter, and then their amendments got submitted. If there was a hot topic like they want to do something, just term limitations. We want an amendment to the charter that states no person shall serve more than three consecutive terms as council member. They could have put it on through 5 votes, and they would have been voted on, or the electors in turn, and maybe they would have because they kept coming to the original, could have said, we've got a petition of 10% or greater of our electors. We want this put on the election, and then that's what it would be. It's just picking term limitations. And me not living in the city, didn't think of anything else that would have been a hot topic. For us, I have a spending limit of $15,000. I cannot spend more than $15,000 with passing a resolution from City Council. And we follow it to a T. We get 5 bids to do a project or to purchase a new truck. If it's $15,001, I go to council, I write a memo, I pass a legislation, and then I sign the contract the day after. Mine is very low in comparison to other city managers, and if we wanted to change it to 25 under the assumption that it will make council go smoother, we meet every 2 weeks. I don't see the purpose in it, and it lets the people know everything I'm doing. 15 seems like a good number for me. Let the next guy change it. To me, it works. We meet the second and fourth Tuesday. It takes me a while to get the bids. So if something came up right now that was $18,000, between now and Friday, I'll write a memo. I'll write the legislation. It'll be in front of council. They'll get the bid on. They'll get it signed on Wednesday. I get pressured by some of my other department heads to move that up to 25. That would require city council action. I just let it go. I don't see the purpose in it. Some cities our size, with our budget, we're pretty good sized budget because of the utilities, are more closer to 50,000. I don't want to do that. I don't like it. I feel like I'm getting sneaky. I'm doing stuff without it, so I would never do that. But that's a big part of what we do. We're very transparent. Our budgeting software is online. You can't ask for a question about city budget. Right? Our entire software and every line item is online by hitting a button. We bought this software for that purpose. We are never accused of not being transparent. So
you guys have your own marketing team. So
we have a marketing and communications coordinator. She just left. We're hiring a new one. She's changed everything. How we put that message out. If something really good would happen for the city, we got a big grant, we're doing something in a park, and we would never think to tell anybody. We never put the bow on the box at the end. We're like, we never really finished that. Now when we did this new parking lot, we really were able to put that message out. And she's able to, we had a water main break that had over 1/4 of the community were out of water for an entire day on one of the hottest days in August. And we screwed up. A valve wasn't working that we should have been able to operate that would have allowed a neighboring water system to take care of it. We screwed up completely, and we put that message out all day long. And the next day on that Monday, we had a meeting of all the people in the city, and I said, we just need to say it. So we put out an article, that basically said, we completely and totally screwed up. Here's what we're doing to fix it. We didn't hide behind anything. This was a major mess up on our behalf, and it went out, and it was extremely well received, probably because what I had in my head, she put out much better than I would have ever done. And largely people said, yep, you screwed up. And it was a mess. That valve has been repaired. We put in scapegoats. We put in another meter. We did everything. Largely, there is a massive connection to the county water system. By doing this valve, that thing would have filled up the tower. They turned the valve and left. No one ever took the time to check to make sure it was actually flowing. By the time they realized it's not working, because more and more people, because it's all elevation, right? So as the tower is draining, more and more people are calling and saying I'm out of water. By the time we realized we messed and went back to it and realized it wasn't functioning, we were dead in the water. So that was key to that message. Krista was the best. But she had a baby and she wants to be home. So we lost her.
One more question. Jason, question? Michael, thank you.
If we're looking at the data that Dustin gave in another meeting, it looks like only 23% of cities in Ohio are statutory, and everyone else is charter. If the county seats, it's a little interesting. It's a split between charter and county, but if you look at that data, only a quarter of the cities are bigger than Wilmington. So it's not really a question, it's more of a comment. Why the hell is Wilmington still a statutory city when most cities aren't? It's more what a village would do with 3,000 or 5,000 people. And it gives more autonomy, it gives more control, it gives more balance. And I have no idea why we have it implemented. So I guess that's not really a question.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what's happening here? Why does this continue to, why would we want to be so behind every other city? And like we would have more autonomy because we could change whatever the hell we wanted to make it like Wilmington. So all the arguments, you're getting arguments from whomever, but I think they're all just BS arguments. That's my question. Sorry. Thanks.
Yeah. I'm Jason.
I was just going to ask, you said the one in New Richmond got torpedoed. What would you do differently?
I put a lot of blame on myself. I don't think I worked as hard to get the message out. I should have probably had council do a meeting. In a town like that, it doesn't take much to put out that the city manager is going to field questions on the charter and show them some more samples, and would have done a better job. I really put that blame on me because when I look back on it now, I think I was it. By that sense, because especially having gone through a massive flood where I bought a lot of the structures, I was pretty much the face of the community, whether I like it or not. And I think that I was maybe done. It was 25 years, and I don't know that I went the extra yard to really say, hey, wait a second, I really think this would be good for the town. We are so unique. We don't operate really well. We don't even necessarily know the Ohio Revised Code. And I don't think I did it, and I think out of lack of a real effort from the main person that people look to, I think it failed. And I let one person who I probably could have sat and talked to, who could have changed it. So I was really the cause when I think back on it. I think I was pretty much the cause of it. And then at that point I was leaving. They haven't made any efforts since I was gone. They really need a village manager, but it's much, much more than that. They need to operate better, and they flounder, I think. I shouldn't say that. So just think that at the time I was there, I think it would have been a better thing. When I leave a town, I don't hang around and get in their business. So. But it was my whole life for 25 years. My kids grew up there. It was Mayberry. You sat at the barber shop. People came to pay their utility bills, just didn't sit in your office and talk to you. I had that connection, and I didn't use it to its fullest. So,
Loveland master plan, how old is that plan?
2022.
Okay.
2022.
Okay, so this plan just been there for 2022?
Yeah, and it touched everything but the downtown, because we had already did one for the downtown. And parks and downtown districts are often forgotten in master plans. They're a side note. Ours shouldn't be. That's why we did the master plan for our downtown. They were young, hip guys that would do walking tours with beer and things like that. So they really brought in a lot of people, made people excited. Any of the downtown businesses, when you went to eat at any of the downtown restaurants, the survey was your paper map, where the kids would draw, but then you would fill out the survey. So our survey results included, ketchup and stuff. But we had 800 surveys returned on what you would like to see in the downtown district. It was ingenious. It was really cool. So
You said you used some grant money to buy a building, refresh it so it had.
we bought a building to tear it down. We have an old mirror factory right in the heart of our commercial district, and no one wanted the building because whenever they found out that the building had some contaminations and had a roof that was going to require $300,000, everyone came in and walked away. Meanwhile, we recognized that building was the center of where we're doing all of this revitalization. So we negotiated for $590,000 and able to get a grant through Hamilton County's community revitalization program for $500,000. So we were able to buy the building for only $90,000 out of our own pocket. We're now actively hoping to get money for the Cincinnati Board to take it down. It's a mess. But when we do that, it's not just buying it, it's cleaning it properly. We bought a gas station next to City Hall that we knew one tank was leaking. We didn't know that he was actually operating out of a tank that was leaking. So we bought that property, worked with Buster, Bureau of Underground Storage Tank Removal, and followed their rules, and through that they helped give us funding to clean the property. Now it'll be, when we're done, will be one of the most beautiful parks in Claremont County. But we told the residents, we're going to buy this dilapidated gas station, we're going to tear down the building, and we're going to clean it up. Oh, you're just going to fill everything up with dirt. No, come look. It's been 2 years digging up old tanks, testing soils. Oops, there's more dirty, and expanding it. So, and that's what we'll do with this mirror factory. We're going to take the building down and market it, and we're not going to sell it to whoever's the highest bidder. We're going to sell it to who we think will be the signature building in our downtown, in our commercial district. We want that center point. We want that hip brewery. We want that key office building. But right now, we're not getting a lot of interest in office building because we know the market, and the market says there's plenty of other office buildings. So, and that's the key. We're trying to control what happens up there to be positive.
Thanks for your time.
I appreciate it. I'm sorry I ran.
I'm going to hang around a bit if you guys want to chat more. Yeah, thanks for coming out. Appreciate it.